Welcome to the May edition of the Appalachia Inshore Fishing Report. I am Captain Jay Carson. This is Captain Evan Snow. We are here in Bass Pro Shops Tallahassee. I want to thank them as always for allowing us to do this, as well as Tracker Boating Center, as well because they help sponsor this. So we want to thank them for that. Evan, it's been a little while since we've been in front of the camera.
Yeah, we just want to wait a little while. You know, a lot of the boat ramps in the area were closed, and now they are pretty much all open that I know of. So, yeah, so we're coming a week or two late, but you know, now that everybody has access to the water, we get a fresh report.
It's May 12th. We are kind of closing in on summer here pretty soon, but the weather sure hasn't felt like summer here as of late. We've had a lot of variations in temperature changes here in the last few weeks, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about how that has kind of changed our fishing a little bit.
Yeah, so you know, we had a hot March. I mean, the water temp
warm March
was up in, you know, I saw it 81, 82 degrees at some point during March, and here in just the last week or two, I've seen it in the 60s like a few times.
I was out this morning; it was 68 degrees. So
we're in the second week of May, and it's 68 degree water temp. So, you know, as far as the trout go, those schoolie trout that a lot of people in our area target, you know, when you're looking at water depth zones,
they're kind of in where they're supposed to be. For the majority of them are kind of in that range, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to go out and just really. Now, don't get me wrong, if you find a good patch of them and you have a good day, you can have a good day, but consistently just stay on these, like, have really big number days, because you know they're spread out anywhere from 3 feet to 8 feet. I feel like they're just, you know, some they're starting and going, water temp swinging either way, and it's just they haven't really like bunched up, you know, and really all settled in one depth zone or something like that.
Yeah. No, they haven't. Definitely, I think the fluctuation in water temperature has got them kind of, you know, a little bit confused and moving around in places. You know, like we caught one in 1.5 feet of water this morning, and then we caught another trout in 7 feet of water today. So I mean, it's just like you said, they're kind of scattered.
That's. I mean, we're still catching some trout in while we're red fishing in shallow water, and then, you know, I'm running out, and mostly I'd say 6 feet of water is where I've been. 5-6 feet of water is where I've been targeting the most, just trying to put, you know, those schoolie number trout, you know, catch numbers and stuff. I think as the month goes on, we were looking at the weather just a minute ago, it's kind of evening out to what you would expect May to be. You know, low 90s and, you know, high 60s overnight, stuff like that. So that's going to go ahead and shoot that water temp up into the low 80s pretty quick.
I think so. I think once, you know, in a week or so, we're going to be full on, you know, that late May, early June, like we typically see for our area.
So those fish are going to go into that late spring pattern. They're going to start settling into deeper water. The school trout are, and you know, you're going to be catching them anywhere from 6 to 8 feet, all the way out till, you know, right there, what I like to call ledges. They're not really ledges. They're just that first contour on your, if you're looking on GPS, where that you know, that low tide drops from like 4 to like 6 feet or something like that. You know, just a gradual little change in depth. They'll be out there, you know, towards the end of the month.
And there's still some big trout in up close. I was talking to somebody the other day who they caught a 27-inch trout, you know, in about 2 feet of water. So I think the bigger trout are still kind of hanging in there. You know, feeding on mullet and stuff like that's in there. So if you're looking for a big trout, I think your best bet is to, you know, kind of stay a little bit shallower than you would for the schoolie fish.
Absolutely, and that, I guess that kind of leads us into what we're going to talk about as far as getting up and fishing shallow on flats. And one thing, this temperature, these lower seasonable temperatures have.
The flats still have a lot of life on them.
Shallow flats still have a lot of activity.
Yeah. Usually, you know, as we get into summer, because the water's so much shallower and heats up so much quicker, you don't see as much life on those flats. But right now, because of that water temperature, there's still a lot of life on the shallow flats. Which
I would expect that all the way probably to the end of May.
Yeah,
May.
I think so.
So what we're talking about when we're talking about shallow flats, we're going in, and I know it sounds like, oh, you just go in this depth of water, but there's stuff we look for when we go in.
Yeah, and I think you can get like a range of flats that we have. You know, we've got some flats that are just solid, you know, turtle grass. We've got some flats that have more contours, changes in them, where they have some potholes and depth changes. And then There's other grass flats that are kind of that mixture, real spotty bottom. And so, depending on what it is that you're, trying to do or target.
And on, central and western portions of the bay, you probably have some oyster bars mixed
Oyster
in
bars
there,
and some rocky flats too. Some shallow flats with rocks mixed into them.
So when we're talking about the flat, most people call, everywhere you're trout fishing the flats, but when we actually talk about a flat, we're talking about, something that's tidal, and we're fishing it anywhere from a foot to usually three and a half feet.
Something at low tide that it's very tough to get into, but on high tide, you got about 3.5 feet of water.
Most flats or bay boats can access it, drift it, or put a trolling motor down and go. And things you're going to look for is really the two main things I look for, which there's a lot of smaller pieces of the pie, but I'm looking for grass. Whether, like you said, it could be all kinds of different grass, but just some good looking bottom, whether it be solid turtle grass, some spotty.
Well, and there's two main types of grass that we get in our area. We get turtle grass and we get manatee grass. Turtle grass is the real thick bladed stuff, that looks like your lawn, your grass in your yard. Whereas manatee grass is that long, spindly, wiry grass. So it makes a difference too if you can identify what type of grass that you're fishing over as to where you might find fish.
Turtle grass has been a bit more productive here, though.
It has, and typically you find more redfish over turtle grass too. So if you're looking to target redfish, you definitely want to concentrate areas that have predominant turtle grass makeup.
And while we're talking about grass, and before we get into a little more stuff we're looking for on the flats, the Jay was just talking about this morning, and the rock grass and some of the central portions.
Oh yeah, let's touch on that real quick.
Yeah, and Eoconfina is just
from the Aucilla River, or just west of the Aucilla River, all the way to the mouth of the Finn Holloway, the rock grass in close is really, really bad. I was out there this morning, and it was touching the surface all the way out, probably half a mile off the grass line. It's making it really tough to fish. So if you're trying to fish in there close, you got to wait till that water gets above that rock grass, or try to find patches and hard bottom in and around it.
What's some baits you're using to target if you're trying to fish it? What baits?
Mostly top water, because it stays above it. I can fish it with top water, stays above it
on certain tides.
If you rig any plastic, you're going to have to rig it weedless.
Like a owner twist lock?
Yeah, owner twist lock. You can put a 4-inch jerk bait, something that's got a lot of side-to-side action to it. Or if you want to just straight retrieve something, you can fish a bigger paddle tail. I would throw like a 4 or 5-inch paddle tail through.
Yeah, with like an eighth of an ounce.
Yeah, eighth of an ounce, or they make a 3/8 ounce one too. That works really well, and that way you can swim it through the grass, and you're still going to have some issues getting it hung up, but it's going to make it better.
It's been a little bit of a nuisance because, like in years past, you find these rock grass patches and you can target it and it holds fish, but there's so much of it right now that it's hard to.
It's the most I've ever seen it. It's as thick as I've ever seen it. So if you're planning on launching anywhere from Aucilla to the Finn Holloway, just be prepared to fish around that rock grass, because it's pretty tough. It's not so bad when you're trout fishing, because most of the trout I notice are out on the outside of it, kind of where it quits, and then start fishing out from there is where most of the trout are. But if you're trying to target redfish, you're going to have to get up in and around that rock grass to find some fish, and it's made it a little difficult. So we totally got off track there, but that was a good side note to make.
I think that was worth talking about. But yeah, we want to go back to what we're looking for when we're in there targeting up on these flats, these shallow flats coming in tidally on a good low tide. You're probably not going to be able to access it unless you have a super skinny water skiff. I have a fairly shallow running boat, one of the Mako Pro skiffs they sell here at Bass Pro Shop, but I can get in there. Unless it's a negative tide, I can access it.
Yeah, you can get in there
around and we're catching redfish, and most of the time I'm not over knee or thigh deep water in there.
Do you have the trolling motor running, or are you just drifting?
If it's dead calm, I'll run the trolling motor, but I prefer to try to set up my drift where I'm just doing a slow drift through there. And when we're in there looking, we're mainly targeting redfish. But you also have that nice shot of a nice
trout,
big trout. Those mid to upper 20,
absolutely,
inch
big
trout.
gator.
gator trout. And those things are solitary. When you're in there, you got some solo redfish, but you know, mostly you're trying to run across a school, or you'll get into some schools and stuff.
Yeah, and if you've ever find, you know, one redfish, the chances are there's going to be more in that area. You know, whether they're really tightly schooled up or more scattered across that flat, there's a good chance that there's going to be more than one in that area.
And things to look for and let you know you're in the right area. Number one, mullet. The big thing is they've been right in with the mullet. So keys you can look for when it's smooth out. You can see obviously them jumping, but you can see them finning. You know, you can see the little small V wakes.
Nervous water.
You know, it's a little rougher. You have to look for them jumping to really be able to see them. But if you can get in there with that mullet, and it's even better, you start seeing other signs. You know, tons of small sea turtles in there right now. Rays, sharks.
Anytime you're seeing a lot of life, it's always a good sign.
Yeah.
So
and you know, and like I said, the redfish being numbers, usually those big trout are solo creatures, you know, so they're going to be hanging around, but they're going to eat the same stuff you're tossing for redfish.
I can't tell you how many times where I've was sight casting to a redfish, whether it was tailing or floating or whatever, especially like with a topwater plug or something like that, and then I've had a trout eat it before the redfish does. Big trout usually, you know, when that happens, it's a trout over 22, you know, 22, 23 inches.
Right, and so mostly what we're throwing in there is we've been throwing a ton of topwater, and it's still been effective through March and April. We're fishing these areas. I'm throwing topwater all day long. Now with the water temps going up, I think topwater is going to be most effective early in the morning before the sun gets really high and stuff, and then you probably switch to something else. Depending on water depth.
And also depending on how much grass, you know, floating grass there is out there. As we get into summer, that floating grass will get a little bit worse.
Right, and even with some floating grass, you can switch to inline hooks. Alder makes some inline hooks and different stuff that put on those top water plugs to help them through the grass a little bit. They won't catch as much as the trebles will. But, you know, even if you're not throwing top water, you can go, depending on water depth, you know, if it's a little shallower, you can go with the
spoons.
Yeah, you can throw spoons. I like to throw spoons when you got at least a couple feet of water. Usually, if the grass is thicker, it's a little shallower. Once again, those on our twist locks, you know, with like a paddle tail or something, you can run right over the grass.
I throw those in there a bunch.
So that's, you know, there's not a whole lot of options of stuff you can throw in there when you're fishing that shallow water.
Owner makes also, I've been throwing this pretty good. It's called the Flashy Swimmer. And it's a weighted swim bait, but it's got a little underspin on it.
Right.
And just gives a little extra flash, a little extra something to catch their eye when you're just like a straight retriever swimming that bait anyway. Just giving that little extra flash can help out. So I've got quite a number of fish on those here lately as well.
What about the puffer fish? Have you been
Dude, there's
getting puffered?
been so many puffer fish.
You've been getting puffered?
So many puffer fish. The puffer fish
they're a nuisance.
They've been a nuisance.
So if you're catching a lot of puffer fish out there, you're not alone. They're all over the place. Crazy.
That's right.
They're biting soft plastics in half, chomping.
Dude, I've caught 3 puffer fish on topwater.
Yeah, we catch them every day on topwater, just about. You know.
It's crazy. But anyway, so I guess we want to transition real quick. We got a couple of fish that we want to talk about here from some recent trips that we've had. Evan, you want to go first?
Sure. So Jessica Arnold came with me with her parents a couple weeks ago, and Jessica likes to throw a lot of top water, and we actually had a little bit of a slow morning, but we powered through it, and about 11 o'clock we were in there in some of these areas I'm talking about with the mullet and areas we can catch some big trout, and she got a couple blow-ups right there on I think she's on a Spook Junior, and after a second I said, that's a really big fish, and luckily I think it struck about 2 more times, and maybe on the 4th strike finally ate it, and it was a 26-inch trout, probably right there at 6 pounds. Just really nice healthy fish. Nice fish.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome. And I guess I want to share, so obviously we talked a little bit about it last time we did this, but we've got cobia showing up. And I was out with a client recently, and we caught a 48-inch cobia in about 5-6 feet of water, and so that was really cool. It's a beautiful fish. So we had a good day with that cobia.
Cool. Another thing we want to touch on, last week Jay was featured on the Captain's Collective podcast. It's one Hunter Levine and his buddy Josh Wells does. They've had a lot of really good anglers and great captains on that thing, and then Jay got to go on there with them, and you can if you want to hear about more what he does or listen to him talk for a while, you can go on there and listen. It's Captain's Collective. You can hear it on the Apple iTunes, Spotify, whatever.
Yeah,
right?
if you go to captainscollective.com, Captains Collective on Instagram and Facebook are all ways to find that podcast. Or if you go to Apple, what is it?
It's iTunes.
Yeah, iTunes. Go to the podcast and just search Captains Collective. It's on there.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear that, I'd be honored. But yeah. So I guess that about wraps us up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I am Captain Jay Carson of Captain Evan Snow, and I guess we will reconvene or try to do this again in about a month.
Yeah. Thanks for Bass Pro Shop
Yep.
for having us.
Absolutely.
See ya.
See you next time.